She has raised $200 million. She got 170,000 people to sign up and volunteer. She's drawn massive crowds and breathed new life into the 2024 presidential contest. Now comes her first really hard part. The single biggest decision of her fledgling presidential campaign lays before Vice President Kamala Harris. Her choice of a running mate. Like everything she has done so far, this is a decision that has to be made in an incredibly compressed timeline. What typically takes months of vetting and deliberating had to be done in just a matter of 2 weeks. And there's only 92 days left before Election Day. Harris has a lot of options to choose from. On the list, according to NBC News, are 6 candidates, a slew of popular governors, a swing state senator, a member of the cabinet, a who's who of rising Democratic superstars, attesting to the incredibly, maybe historically deep bench of political talent that exists in the one political party that has not become a cult to one man and one man only. Here's what we know right now. Vice President Harris met with Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro on Sunday at her residence. On that, the New York Times reports this, quote, the in-person meeting, described as a chemistry test, is a final step in the search, but one that Ms. Harris is expected to put considerable stock in. Aides and associates have said that she often prioritizes personal rapport with her staff and advisors. Harris is expected to announce her running mate tomorrow, and then they will appear together at a rally to kick off a swing state tour meant to introduce her and her vice president as a ticket to the voters. The new face of an energized Democratic Party ready to take on Donald Trump, a wannabe autocrat, a convicted felon who seems to be ketchup bottle thrown at the walls levels of mad over the size of the crowds that Democratic nominee Kamala Harris has been drawing of late. NBC News reports that starting on Tuesday, the vice president will hit 6 swing states over 5 days. Quote, one of the heaviest weeks of campaign-related travel in the general election. It is a huge contrast to her opponent, the 78-year-old ex-president who's covered 10 states in the last 5 weeks and has just one event on his calendar this week. Vice President Kamala Harris set to pick her running mate in a critical week. In week 3 of her campaign is where we begin today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. NBC News Washington correspondent Yamiche Alcindor is back with us. Also joining us, professor at Princeton University, Eddie Glaude is here. Columnist Charlie Sykes is back, and former senator, host of MSNBC's How to Win 2024 podcast, Claire McCaskill, is here. All 3 of these friends are MSNBC political analysts. But we start with Yamiche. Yamiche, I know you've got some great reporting of your own about how the vice president is approaching this task of basically replacing herself on the ticket. Tell us what you know.
From my reporting, the vice president is looking at making this decision, leaning in on, of course, both the chemistry and personal rapport that she is going to have with these contenders, but also their governing experience. She wants someone with executive governing experience, is what I was told by several sources. And she wants someone who's going to be ready on day one. But she also wants someone who's going to have to navigate what is this really unprecedented, and I know that's a word that we use a lot, but it's an unprecedented situation that they find themselves in that they have to get up and running really quickly. She wants, I'm told, based on internal polling that the campaign is doing, someone who can appeal to the voters that President Biden would have brought onto the ticket, including older voters, older white voters, which is why you're seeing them lean in, as one source told me, to middle-aged white men. She also wants someone who's going to put people sort of at ease, including moderate Republicans who might be a little cautious about voting for Harris, both only because of her policy issues, but also because of the fact that she's a Black and South Asian woman who would be, of course, a first in the White House if she were to win this election. I was also told she wants someone who's going to be a, quote, bulldog, someone who's going to be ready to go toe-to-toe with the Republicans as they attack her, not only, of course, on issues like her job when she was dealing with the root causes of migration and what they call the border, but also when it comes to attacking her record as a prosecutor. And even, of course, now when you talk about race and attacking her identity, that's going to be something that's really, really big. Also, because she's going to be the first woman in that seat, I was told she doesn't want someone who's going to undermine her, right? She wants somebody who can be comfortable taking the lead from a woman, who can be comfortable taking on tasks that she gives them, even if they don't like it, and someone who's not going to go behind her back and be talking about her or be leaking things about her if she were to become president, because she did get this nomination in a sort of unorthodox, untraditional way, and that person shouldn't be seen as running for 2028 behind her back. Nicole.
So, Yamiche, with all of your expertise and knowledge, what is your sense of what all of that sort of detailed reporting on how she's approaching it? Does it argue for any one or group of these finalists ahead of any other or few?
It's a great question, but honestly, in talking to sources, it's really hard for me to say who would have the up or the down here, especially because I've always been told over and over again that the list is a little bit longer than what we had, and that there could be out there some dark horse that we don't know about, who could be someone that pops up. Now, it would be very surprising to me if it wasn't one of the people that I have listed and that we've listed as a network. When you look at Shapiro and Kelly and Waltz and the governors that we've been talking about, but I think it's hard to know because I wasn't there, right, in those in-person meetings. But you can see why Mark Kelly's on the list, because he's from a border state. Pete Buttigieg, they have a great chemistry, is what I've told. Andy Beshear is someone who won in a red state and has brought over people who might have been moderate Republicans. You have Tim Waltz, who is someone who debuted the sort of language that the campaign has been using, talking about former President Trump and J.D. Vance as, quote, weird and creepy. So you've had these people that have sort of had their moments where they've looked like, oh, this person could be interesting. Shapiro is another one who is seen as a Democratic star, though there are a lot of progressive groups that have now been sort of coming out and saying negative things about him. So it'll be really interesting who we find out, but we know at least for a fact that we will be finding out by tomorrow. The plan is to have an official announcement tomorrow, but who knows, if my reporting or other people's reporting gets close, maybe we'll get it even sooner, Nicole.